Yeah, so we're going to be talking about program management and implementation for young advocates. And I think before we start, I don't know. I know last week was probably around like fundraising, resource mobilization, and I'm very sure the person who taught most likely mentioned things around like writing proposals, maybe applying for grants and all that. And I feel
Yes.
like there's no way you'll be able to apply for a grant if you don't have to do like some project initiation phase that has to happen, but we'll get into that in the course of the conversation. But I just want us to have like a very quick reflection. I want you to take a moment and think about your own menstrual health projects. Like everybody here now is working on a menstrual health project, I believe, right? Everyone here
Yes.
has a menstrual health project that they have in mind here. So I just want you to take a moment and think about that. And if it could reach its fullest potential, what would success look like? Like, what would that end goal look like for you? Like, if your project should achieve everything that you intend it to achieve, what would success look like for you? I'll just take like random responses from different people. Anybody can actually raise up their hand first. And if you don't understand my question, you can also let me know. But like, I just want to know, like, if you implement your own menstrual health projects, what would success look like for you in your own context or in the context of your project?
One that the participants finally have a full knowledge about menstrual health, their bodies,
Mm-hmm.
puberty, and the like.
Okay.
And yeah, it will also be nice to like have participants being given some menstrual pads as well,
Okay.
or food where they can source one for themselves. That would be like success indicators for me.
For you. Awesome. And I'm very sure that as you're thinking about that success, you probably also saw the smiles on the faces of the young girls that would have those menstrual pad. And I believe it felt fulfilling for a moment, right? Precious.
Yes, yes, exactly.
Exactly. And I don't know if any other person wants to share what success would look like for them. Okay, let me just continue. For another person, it could be that success to them could be that maybe the parents of the young girls now have maybe more knowledge about how they can train their girls on menstrual health, because really we cannot assume that all parents know how to have that conversation on menstruation. And when I say all parents, it's both woman and man, because we have single fathers and they have daughters and they need to talk to their daughters about these things. So success for everybody differs, but one thing is that everybody, I believe, even for those that did not respond, I'm very sure that what you were thinking about in your mind has something that would make you happy, would make you feel fulfilled. Because even being here is because you want to make an impact in the society. That is why you applied for this whole program and all that. So I know that definitely you want to transform the lives of those people that you intend to serve, be it the young girls directly, be it the schools, be it the parents, whoever your key stakeholder, your target audience is. I'm very sure that you have that strong desire to actually make it happen. And there's something you're envisioning already in your head, and that is what your success will look like. But I've come to realize that poor planning really can mess up the vision. So that thing that you are seeing, that end goal, like Precious told us now that our people, the young girls would have more knowledge about menstrual health, the young girls would have access to pads, either them producing it themselves or them having like provision to these things. But the truth is, if Precious does not plan our program very well, there's a high probability that that vision is not going to happen. So also for everyone else that did not respond to my question, whatever it is that you have in your brain, that desire you have, that vision that you have in terms of menstrual health, if you don't plan well, if you don't have structured steps, there's the high probability that it's going to lead to unexpected outcome, even frustration for you as a person. Like you can get frustrated and you might even now lose that sense of purpose, because we've had people that they'll start something and like because it's not giving them what they intended at the very beginning, they just have that sense of I think I've wasted my time. So because we don't want everybody on this call to feel like they've wasted their time, we don't want you to feel frustrated at any point in time, and we don't want you to have unexpected house call. That is why I am here today, so that we'll talk about like different part of program management, such that you can turn that spark that you have in your head, that joy, that thing, that burning question, that burning sense of like, I want to change my world. So we can turn it into something that is a reality. That thing that is in your head, you can bring it to life, and that joy and vision that you began with can be realized to achieve its full potential. If you are still with me, please let me see some reactions. You can just give me a thumbs up, or you can just say something in the chat to probably say you're following, just to be sure. Precious is like my best student on this call because she's the only person that I can see. Every other person every other person, I don't know what's going on, but anyways, let's write down. I'm very sure people will catch up, as we go. But really, that's basically like what we are doing here today. And please feel free to like just if there's anything that probably doesn't sound clear, you can cut me short at any point in time. So I'll be sharing some of my own personal experience as much as possible, and at the same time, I'll be like really going deep into like what is what, but we might not go into so much details, but at least um you have a sense of what is applicable in program management, such that you can then Google and like have like clearer knowledge as the case may be. Okay, so I wanted to give an example, but I think I would come back to this. Let's just go straight into the business. So, program management. So, we have the first stage, which is the initiation phase, which is the conceptualization phase, right? We'll dive deeper into like what these phases really mean. And then we have the second stage, which is the planning stage. We have the third stage, which is the execution stage. So, the execution is where you implement everything that you've planned so far. Then we have the monitoring and evaluation, which is where you measure if what you're doing makes a lot of sense. And then we have the closing phase, which is the last phase where you close the project, and as the case may be, you can choose to scale up what you're doing, right? And I think I just want to say something about scaling. I just want to say something about scaling, which is that a couple of times when we implement projects, we always feel like it has to stop where we are. For instance, you can have that vision to probably implement your menstrual health project, say in Kaduna or in Zamfara, and then or probably just a community in Zamfara, but you're not thinking about the possibility for that project to be scaled in the whole of Zamfara. And who knows, maybe even in the whole of Nigeria, or who knows, somebody somewhere might look at your menstrual health program model and say, you know what, we want to apply this model in South Africa. You never can tell. So I always like to like remind people that whenever you're planning your program, whenever you're even designing your program, have scaling at the back of your mind. Like just have it at the back of your mind that this is possible, because when you think about it that way, you will put so much effort into what you're doing, and you'll also be excellent at what you're doing. Like it's just very, very important. I just had to chip that in. So I'm just going to take us through the different phases. I'll talk about the like what happens at different phases. I'll talk about some documents that you get to interact with in those phases, and I can send like samples of what those documents look like, probably on our group page. But again, I didn't want to cloud this slide too much, so I'm just going to speak through a couple of things here. So at the initiation phase is the phase where you are actually thinking about your projects. This is where you're just probably you're desiring that, okay, I want to get this thing done. It's the start of the project, of which I feel like a couple of us are at currently. You're at your initiation phase. You're still thinking about, okay, I want to do this, I want to do that. You're asking yourself things like, what exactly is the problem? So at the initiation phase, you have a problem you want to solve, right? I feel like generically, everybody on this call wants to solve the problem of menstrual health gaps. So I don't know what the gap is for you. I don't know if anybody would like to share with me, like, what is that problem in menstrual health that you genuinely want to solve? I actually need a response at this point. You see that See, we have to work together, you guys. Like, we just need to make this work together. So, if I give you the vibe, we have to respond back. Oh, yes. Like I said, we'll all be bored throughout. So, I need responses, guys. So, I need someone to let me know, like, what's that menstrual health problem that you are seeing. Because fine, everybody can say that, oh, students are not going to school. But maybe that's not what you are seeing. Maybe you are seeing something else entirely. But I'm just curious. So who wants to share with us, like, what is that problem they are seeing? And please feel free to use the chat also. Like, if you feel more comfortable using the chat, please feel free. But I just want to know. Thank you so much, Angel. Please go ahead.
How it affects girls, lack of information about menstrual health, how it affects their self-esteem, how it affects them
Okay.
psychologically, yes, and the
Mm.
stigma, everything that comes with it.
Mm. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I think that's very spot on. And I love the angle that you're coming from. I can clearly tell that your problem is well defined. Like, is you're not coming from the angle of we don't have pads. You're coming from the angle of the fact that these guys don't have knowledge as regards menstrual health. It is affecting their self-esteem. It is affecting like how they present themselves in public. Of which it makes a lot of sense really, because it took a while for me to even get comfortable as a lady to buy sanitary pads in the presence of other men. It took a while to like feel comfortable saying, I'm on my period. Like, you cannot you beat me. I'm on my period. And like I've learned to now be very comfortable with it, such that even if I have guys around me, I don't feel like there's something wrong, right? And it's because of information. It's because I know better. That's why. And you're very right that a lot of young girls actually they're not confident in themselves because they don't have that knowledge. So we're going to be using Angel's problem in the course of this our initiation phase. If anybody wants us to use their own problem when we get to planning phase, they'll let us know. But I think we'll just move on with Angel. So at this initiation phase, you define your problem. Like Angel has defined our own problem. You can also define your own problem clearly, and you make it very clear. I like how Angel's problem was not vague. She like it wasn't so vague. Now, some people might probably want more specificity to say, okay, how many percentage of young girls who are having that problem? What studies do we have out there that is telling us about this problem? What makes this problem really a problem? Or if I'm a funder now to fund your project and I'm wondering, should I really put my money here? Because when they are funding, they think about like, okay, what would really yield the most results? So if probably I'm a funder that is interested in mental health, right? I can look at Angel's problem and feel like, okay, if I fix this, it would also impact mental health because of the problem that she has stated. So it's very good for you to make your problem very clear. Like, let them understand, okay, this is what is going on. This is going to be the impact of this problem if it continues. And these are people that are being affected. And also in what location, right? It could probably even be just in Nigeria that you have data for, or if you have data for the specific place that you want to implement your program in, or where you're seeing the particular problem, it's good to also state that. So, but basically define your problem clearly. Then the next thing again that you see that happens at initiation phase is there is that conversation around goals and objective. And I'm saying conversation because I've come to realize that and you know this initiation phase is not just a one day thing. It's a process. Like it happens continuously. So day one we can come together and we are like, okay, this is the problem. What do we want to do? And then maybe if you're working with a team, one person will say, maybe you should do this. Another person say, oh, maybe you should do that. But then it's still not sinking. It's still not gelling together. So I had to say that again so that you don't put yourself under pressure to try to like figure out what your goals are or what your objectives are. You can take your time. Like you can actually take your time. And but again, don't don't stay for too long in the taking your time. But really, like you don't have to like finish your initiation phase in a day. You can take a process, before wrapping up your initiation phase. So, but basically, you have to set your goals and objectives. I can tell from the poll that you guys filled on your group chats that quite a number of you are kind of familiar already with like some of these things. So I'm not going to go deep into what is SMART goal, what is this and that. You understand what I mean by goal and objective. So just ensure that your goals are smart. And also maybe for people that maybe don't know, your goals most times are always very broad, while your objectives are very specific. So let's take Angel's example now. So Angel wants to reduce the lack of information, or maybe wants to reduce the knowledge gap amongst young girls on menstrual health. If she has a percentage of knowledge gap, she will put it there to say she wants to reduce the knowledge gap to so percentage among young girls in a particular place. Now, our objectives could then be that, number one, she wants to increase the level of information of young girls in and so. That is our objective. So objective is like, what are the things she would do in order for her to achieve that particular goal? So think about it that way. Your goal is very broad, but then your objectives are the things that you would do to ensure that you achieve that thing. Let me give another example and I'm staying here because if you can get your goals and objectives right, you're fine. Like, you are literally good. You are just on a very every other thing, you will figure it out along the way. So let me use this example of, okay, let's say you want to let's say that you want to cook rice, right? The goal is to cook rice. That's the goal. My objectives would then be, what are the things I need to do so that I'll be able to cook rice? Number one, I need to go and buy the raw rice. Number two, I need to go to the market. Number three, I need to. So those are like my objectives that would help me to achieve my goal. That's why you realize that there are some programs that are probably being implemented, and you realize that some programs are doing school outreach, some are doing parent engagement, and maybe they will now add maybe social media campaign to it. While in another program, they are not doing school outreach. The only thing they are doing is social media engagement. That is how they want to achieve their goal. So their objective is tied towards media engagement in order to achieve their goal. So your objectives helps you to, like, have that sense of, okay, this is what I have to do for me to be able to achieve my goal. Are we still together? Do we get it? Do you have questions? Does it make sense? I need reactions. I need to be sure we're still together, we're following. Awesome. Great. Then another thing that happens at the initiation phases, you get to have questions around, like, who are my stakeholders? Who are the people that I need to work with, right? And if you take a look at what happens when I don't know if people are familiar with grant writing, you realize that by the time you're writing grants, they ask you some of these questions depending on the grant template, the grant proposal template. They ask you questions on what's your program, what's your goal, what's your objective, what are the stakeholders you work with, what are the possible risks you're seeing, or some even ask you for a theory of change. Because when you're writing your theory of change, you're putting your goal, you're putting your objective, you're talking about the risk, you're talking about the activities they are going to implement to achieve your goal, right? So most times I see grant proposal template as like my initiation phase document. So somebody might ask, who are stakeholders, right? There are people that are invested in the success and your failure of your project. So anybody that you need to work with to ensure that you achieve your goal, or you need to work with to ensure you do not fail on the project, is your stakeholder, right? So think about, let's use Angel's example, right? So we said we've already understood our problem. We've been able to set a proposed goal for her, which is that she wants to reduce the knowledge gap. Now she might ask, who are the people that I need to work with? Definitely she needs to work with the young girls for her to understand what kind of messaging do these young girls need? How do young girls communicate to themselves? There is this organization that did, is this Spark Girls or something girls, I don't know. They did this very nice movie thing on YouTube and also on Instagram to talk about like sexual and reproductive health and all that. I feel like they act how do young girls communicate in this century, not girls of my own age. They focused on girls of the current generation and they spoke their language, right? So there's that thing of like, engaging the young girls and all that. Angel might say, okay, I need the parents because without the parents, I cannot still achieve this thing, right? So really, stakeholders are people that you need to work with. Think as broad as possible, right? Then we also have develop a high level scope and deliverable. For this, what I mean by high level scope and deliverable, some people call it activities. These are the things that you need to get done, right? It's most times if you have your objectives clear, it is easy for you to define what your activities are. So let's say, take for instance, my objective is that I want to increase the knowledge of, I want to increase the level of information of young girls. I'll ask myself, how do I increase the level of information of young girls? They want to do school outreaches or they want to do church campaign. Church campaign because I know there are children churches and there are teens church. So that way you're asking yourself, okay, what is possible? That's why I said once you can get your goals and objectives right, your activities is not gonna be so hard. It's just left for you to decide which approach do I want to follow so that I'll be able to achieve my objectives. So let's use church campaign, right? Like, okay, Angel now, one of her major activities that she wants to talk to the young girls, but instead of going through the school route, she wants to go through the church route and go to children churches and also to teenagers churches, teens church, to have conversations with them on menstrual health, to increase their level of information on menstrual health. Also, at this phase, also you get to have conversations around your preliminary budget. So this is not like budget in details. It could just be a thing of, oh, how much will I probably spend, right? So again, it doesn't have to be too detailed. Just knowing that, okay, cash up pay, we'll spend this, spend this, spend this, spend this, spend this, but it's just like a summary budget really that should be here. And also at initiation phase, you get to ask yourself, what are the possible risks? What could go wrong, right? Let's say, take for instance, Angel's example that we've been using, and she wants to make use of church, right? What could really go wrong by choosing to go to churches, by choosing to go to teenagers' church? One thing that can go wrong is they might not give her enough time to have that conversation. Another thing that might go wrong is that the young girls might feel uncomfortable. You might probably be adding to the problem by bringing the conversation to the church. It's like, there's just that thing like, don't let us talk about this here. We can take it outside, not in church. So that could be a possible risk, right? It could probably be that you would then now create another layer of problem into what you're trying to solve in the first place, and any risk you can think about. So as I am talking, I expect that you're using your own case study as an example. You're asking yourself, what's my problem? You're asking yourself, what are my goals? You're asking yourself, who are my stakeholders? You're asking yourself, what are the possible activities that I could conduct? You're asking yourself, what could probably go wrong with what I'm doing, right? And then also at the initiation phase, you develop a project charter, what some people call a concept note, as the case may be. Some people also call it a proposal, depending on who you are submitting that document to. So if you're submitting the document internally, you can call it maybe a project chart. Like, if you're depending on the structure of the organization, if you're submitting the document, what I mean by the document is everything that I talked about, your problem statement, your goal, your stakeholders, your activities, written inside a one pager. Because project charter cooking poju is straight to the point. It's not too long. It's very brief, straight to the point. So if you're submitting it internally, maybe within your team members, you can call it a project charter. If you're submitting it to probably like a team lead and like maybe a brother organization, but within the same organization, you can call it a project charter, and then a concept note. And if you're probably submitting it externally, you can call it a proposal. But again, these terminologies, it depends on the organization and the structure. So I'm not, as the case may be, you might go to a place now and it's proposal they call it, but the basis is everything I talked about are the things that will be inside that particular document. Now, documents are very important because some people can say, Tony, everything that you're saying, I get it. I can be thinking about it in my head. But I've come to realize that if you don't put it down on paper, you are gonna burn. So it's best just know that as you are thinking it in your head, be typing it. For some people, and because even like these are like personal projects, right? It's not like you have like maybe an organization that you are reporting back to and everything. You can have like a WhatsApp, what's it called? I don't know, maybe a space on your WhatsApp, your own MMI, me, myself, and I kind of group chat, and just write these things down, right? I'm just trying to tell you that it does not have to be too technical, right? You can just type all these things down, like go back there again, refine it as much as possible. If you use Google Notes, you can just type it there. Like some people, they have different project ideas written on their notes, and they have like different, in a project charter already written on their laptop, waiting for execution phase. So again, that's to say you can go through initiation phase for as many projects as possible, depending on when you're now ready to go into full planning mode or into full execution mode. Okay, moving on to, I think I don't need to go too deep here. I think we've really I've talked about this. I don't want to waste so much time, but I just did like a mini table to just show you that like, okay, this is what defining the problem looks like. This is what setting the goal looks like, your stakeholders, but I think I've actually talked through it. There's no need to go too deep inside it. Again, if you understand initiation phase, say, yes, I understand. If I don't see yes, I understand in the chats, then I know that everything I've been saying, I've been blabbing. I say yes, I understand though. I think Mikuri is giving me thumbs up. The instruction is yes, I understand. I'm not going to count Alima's response with it because why is Alima's answering me yes, I understand. Okay. I think we have about 5 responses already. Yeah, we have 5 responses already, so I can continue. So I'm glad that you guys understand the initiation phase, right? Like I said, it's just like that ideation phase, but it's just a well structured and intentional ideation phase. And the funny thing is, you can apply this thing into every area of your life, not only about menstrual health. If you probably want to plan a business, you want to do anything in life, really, you want to plan your wedding, you can first start from that initiation phase. Like just think about, okay, what am I thinking, and just put it down in paper. So we're going to also use a party in the course of this our conversation. So imagine you're about to throw my own berry party. What is the one thing you need to make it a success? Right? For some people, it could be a great playlist, it could be snacks, it could be just the right set of people to hype it. For instance, on my wedding day, the right set of people to hype me is very important to the wedding party, right? So as the case may be for you, just think about, okay, what is needed to make, my party a success. Now think about it. Think about your program planning phase as you're setting up that party. So your program planning phase is that phase where you now want to set up that party. You want to plan that party. What's that one thing you know you need to make sure everything goes smoothly? That's a question to the house. If you want to do a party right now, where is that one thing that you need to make sure everything goes smoothly? Now I'm using party. You see that I'm not even using menstrual health. So that not look like I was too serious. Anybody wants to respond? Let me open this thing so I can see if there's any hands up. Oh, okay. Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm just seeing the chat. Pelumi said, ensuring, before uncle, ensuring there is food. Okay. Zainab said money. Alima said an event planner because trust me, my friend cannot stress in this life. Precious also said food. See, food is very important to most people. Adebukuri says money. It's true because what's a party without the money, right? It's true. You're very, very correct. Okay. Oh, another person says decoration. Okay. So, guys, as I was about to check what is happening in the chat, I think I have to stop sharing so that I can reshare again. Let me just go again. Okay. Okay. Can you see my screen? Can anybody just let me know if they can see my screen? I
Not
feel like
yet. Not yet. It's still blank.
interesting. Why is it saying? Okay, I think I know why. Just a moment. Mercy Lord. Hey, who caused this now? Is it Angel? No, it cannot be Angel. Angel has been participating in this conversation. Okay. Okay, I think it's clear, right? So, I
Yes.
mean, you guys are very right? You need like all those things. These are things that you need to make sure that everything goes on smoothly, right? So that's the same mindset that you bring into your program planning phase. You ask yourself, what are the things that I need to ensure are in this thing to ensure that my program does not go wrong, right? So have that at the back of your mind. You're asking yourself, what are the things that I need to put together to ensure that this is a success? Just like some people said money. It's the same way you also need money in a program. Just as some people said food. Depending on the context of the program, food might represent something else in the context of your project, but these things are very important, and you cannot treat it as, just you cannot focus on one and not focus on the other. Like you have to focus on everything together, which is why that planning thing is very, very, very important so you can plan appropriately. So what happens at the planning phase, right? I feel like bulk of your work really is done if you're able to do well in your initiation phase. Most times, depending on the organization or the individual, some people try to merge their initiation phase and their planning phase together. Like they mix it together. I think one thing I didn't say about the initiation phase is that if you're probably working in an organization where you have to probably get approval After your initiation phase, they then approve and say, okay, you can go into planning. Just the same way you probably send your initiation, your project charter or your project proposal to the funder, and then the funder says, okay, you can go ahead into planning, right? So, but in your own case now, you are the one approving your projects yourself. You are the one deciding what you want to do. So you can merge your initiation and planning phase together. But ideally, initiation phase is supposed to present a document that helps your internal stakeholders to have a sense of this is what you're going to do, and then they approve and say, okay, looking at what you say you want to achieve and you need $200,000 to achieve this thing, we say the organization can give you the money, no problem, go ahead, right? So I just have to like call that out. Depending on where you are working, for some people, they merge initiation and planning phase together because they already have maybe the resources already. So nobody's approving anything, they're just moving, right? So, but on a well-structured mode, what happens at the planning phase is that you get to define your objectives better. Again, at the initiation phase, they might correct some things. Your boss can say, no, I think you should, maybe instead of doing this, let's tweak it this way, let's change it that way. So I expect that there might be some changes, there might be some corrections to your goal, in some cases to your objective, right? That needs to be refined at your planning phase. So by the time you get to your planning phase now, you then have to redefine your objective. Some objectives will still remain the same way they were at the initiation phase. Some might change, right? But most importantly, you need to be able to set your milestones. And your milestones will be set based off your activities. So again, you know we said we're going to do church campaign, right? Now for the church campaign, in order for Angel to be able to run a church campaign, some of the things that she probably needs to do would be that she needs to have conversations with the stakeholders in the church. For her to have conversations with stakeholders in the church, she needs to write letter, she needs to submit letter, she needs to know who the person is, she needs to schedule a meeting date, she needs to go to the, these are like list of activities. But what is the core milestone there? The core milestone is that we get an approval from 5 churches. Just take for instance, we get approval from 5 churches. Once she hits that milestone, she knows that, okay, she's moving forward in her project. So some people at times, they set milestones based on task. But for me, I think it's great to set your milestones again in line with your objective, but also in line with your activities to say, I've hit a very important mark in the course of this project implementation or the course of in course of the project implementation. But you need to be able to set those skill milestones. Again, most times it's always in line with your objectives and also in line with your activities, right? So in that case now, one key milestone is that we've gotten approval from 5 churches. Once we get approval from 5 churches, another milestone could be that we've conducted the training of so number of young girls in this particular region. That is another milestone. The moment when she hits that thing, she knows, okay, I've achieved this particular milestone. So see your milestones as like your strategic win points, like the strategic win points that by the time you are done achieving everything, you can say, oh, I've achieved my goal. Oh, I've achieved all my objectives together, right? That's how you should think about it. And also at the planning phase, you also develop what we call a work plan. Some people might already know what a work plan is. Some might not know what a work plan is, but work plan literally tells you the different activities that you have, the different tasks that you need to achieve in order for you to get your activities done, who is responsible, and also the timeline that is needed to achieve that work plan. Now, work plans are very beautiful. I say it's very beautiful. I think it's very beautiful because it helps everybody to be guided, particularly if you're working with a team. It just helps everyone to be guided. And even if you're not working with a team, work plan is also very good for like, your program planning because it helps you break down every single step. Like it's just like your task list. Oh, you want to maybe read your book. You say, okay, I will read page 1 to 2 on day 1, then I'll read page 3 to 4, day 2. But for day 3, I will do more than 2 pages. The same way you go so detailed in like, your planning, or let's use our rice example now to say, okay, between 1 a.m. to 2 p.m., I'll go to the market. Between 3:10 and 3:15, I use that one to quickly peel the Maggi. Like, work plan is that detailed. in the context of our church campaign, right? Our work plan will have things like, since we have an activity of stakeholders engagement, which is where Angel is going to go and secure approval from the churches, right? Different tasks that needs to happen is somebody needs to write that letter that we're going to submit. Somebody needs to submit that letter. Somebody needs to follow up on that letter. So on your work plan, you're writing it. Number one, write letter. In fact, your number one step can even be get contact details of the stakeholder or of the church leader, or identify the church leaders. In fact, identify the churches before you're not identifying the church leaders, before you now get to, writing your letter, to submitting the letter, to following up on the letter, to securing approval on the letter. And then when you have those things listed out, you then say who is responsible for it, because you need to know who you will break their head. Apologies, why am I sounding so violent this night? You need to know, like, okay, who are you going to hold responsible really for like different tasks? So if you realize that we are dragging on that milestone of securing approval from the church, you know who to go and meet. You know that, I think it is Pelumi that we need to go and meet. Or I think it is Queenet. Yes, I think it's going to be Queen. Maybe Queenet. We gave Queenet that task now. Maybe it's now Queenet. You know that, okay, Queenet will be held responsible. Why is Anima saying thumbs up? Maybe Queenet will be held responsible for that particular tax. But really, like, you just have to, like, what's the word, you just have to, like, you have to know who you are assigning. And again, it's also good to assign people based off their strengths. That's another learning that I've come to learn over the course of my years of experience, that that's if you're working with a team. If you're not working with a team, you're the only one, there's only you that will do it, but you just need to be checking your timeline to be sure you're doing things according to your timeline. But if it's a case where you have a team, it's good to know the strength of your team members. Some people, they're not good with writing. Some people, they're very good with talking in the public, going for meetings, as in securing deals. Some people, that's what they do. So it's good to know those people, so you can assign responsibilities based off their strengths. So if you look at, there are tasks that involves a lot of talking, going for meetings, that person that enjoys it, just put the person there. You realize that it's that person that will be pushing you to say, Alpha, when are we going for that meeting? Because they enjoy it. So that one is just, a tip for anybody that is doing this thing like as a full-time job. The another thing again that happens at planning phase is your resource planning and budgeting. Now, when you think about resource is not only money. Again, when you're planning a larger project, it is not only money. You have to think about your human resource. You also need to think about even down to your administrative supplies, things like the paper that we have in our office. Will it be sufficient for us to be able to write letters like this? Things as tiny as the biro that you have, because some people will have programs that they'll probably need some, writing materials to be shared at the training program. So, like, you need to do like a full-blown resource planning, which is why if you have a team that you have like your administrative unit, let them know what you're doing so they can do like, a resource planning from their own hand. If you have a HR, your HR can do a resource planning in terms of human resource, in terms of like, the staff that are needed. So if you probably need to hire more people, if you need to get more volunteers, because you take a look at your work plan, you're realizing that, do I want to kill myself? No, I don't want to kill myself. So let me get volunteers on this particular project. It is part of resource planning, which also happens in planning phase, right? Where you plan, what do you need? What are the things that you need, both financial, both human, both administrative wise? I mean, just think about it, right? You do your resource planning. While budgeting, again, you budget. I don't know. I believe that there'll probably be like a session on budgeting. So like you guys will just have a sense of like how budgeting is being done and how like financial communications in this whole program development space runs, right? So, but budgeting is you allocate the money to the different activities, to the different tasks, and you cut it according to your code, according to your material. Don't go and budget with expectation that somebody will give you extra money. It's very important. Cut, like, plan based off what you want. There have been cases where people have removed activities because they can tell that the money they have is not going to be sufficient, but they know that without that activity they can still achieve the overall project. Now the next one also is a communication plan. I had a communication plan because I've come to realize that most programs, they forget communication. They think about communication when they are now implementing, which is not supposed to be. We're in a age where we're in an age where communication is very important. You need to like let the world know what you're doing, not because of self applause or for people to be able to say, oh, you're doing well, but to build credibility for yourself, for your organization, and to even attract more funders, as the case may be. And like I said earlier about scaling, communication also helps you to scale faster because somebody else is seeing what you're doing and they might be interested and they will say, Angels program, I want it to be implemented in Brazil. I mean, we are literally working in a global community now that everybody has access to like different things. So it's good to have your communication plan. Ask yourself, what do I want to communicate to my stakeholders? What do I want to communicate to my investors? What do I want to communicate to parents? What do I want to communicate to the girls themselves? In the course of this project, right? So if you don't have a communication expert, you have AI. Talk to AI. We need to plan our communication. And communication is not only social media. Communication too is also, okay, WhatsApp is also social media. Well, social messaging applications is also part of it. Communication is also sending WhatsApp messages to parents to like tell them about like what is happening like in the course of the program, or maybe even sending reports to that Ministry of Health person that's probably working with you or your stakeholder in the ministry. But trust me, you need to plan how you want to communicate. You need to like know, okay, how often do I want to be telling these people about what is happening? How often do I want to carry ministry along? Even if they will not see anything, let me just know that I've submitted reports to the Ministry of Health for this month to let them know this is what we are doing. Or let me know that, okay, I've posted on our LinkedIn page, on our Instagram to say this is what we are doing. But you need to have a communication plan. Shey, you people have heard me. You must like I have to emphasize because I know people don't do it these days. So as you guys are running your individual projects, have a communication plan. And I need to be seeing it. I need to be seeing is that, okay, you guys are really communicating the progress on your project. Then the next thing is establishing a monitoring and evaluation plan, because you need to have a plan as to how do I want to track, how do I want to track my outcome, how do I want to track my impacts. Again, I hope that there will definitely be like a monitoring and evaluation session. So I'm not going to go so deep into M&E, but yeah, that part is also very important. And at the end of your planning phase, you get your approval for your final program plan, as the case may be. If you are working in an organization or if you have to report to a higher authority, you get your approval. But if you're the only one, you're the boss of yourself, you yourself too, you have to approve yourself. I also want to say that in course of your planning phase, it doesn't have to end. Like planning can plan, like as you're executing too, you can also be planning, as the case may be. Trust me, like at times like you face some roadblocks or you realize something is not working and you have to go back again to the drawing board. So by the time you are done, don't feel like, oh, I've done my work plan, then that's it. It cannot change. It can change, because stakeholders can be very funny and you have to just go and change what you have on your work plan. If you understand planning phase, can you let me know that you do understand planning phase? If you understand the planning phase, let me know that you do understand the planning phase. I think for this one, just put your favorite emoji in the chat. Just put your favorite emoji in the chat for me to be sure. And I just need 5 people so that I can continue. I just need to be sure that people are getting it, people are understanding it. Okay, thank you, Pelumi. Thank you, Precious. We have 2 responses, 3 more to go. Thank you, Angel. Thank you, Zinab. Thank you, Alimat. Angel's favorite emoji is a kiss. Interesting. It's good. It's good. I like the fire. No, I'm not counting Alimat one. I need one more response. Oh, Faisat is love. Awesome. Okay, thank you. I'm glad that we are getting it. Also, yeah, I want to quickly, hey, God, time is running. Can you guys believe it? We've used 1 hour already. Wow, it did not feel like, oh no, I've not used 1 hour. We did not start on time. So the key documents, some documents that you probably hear or that you have to use in the course of your planning phase. We have a program plan. There's something that I actually did for this session. I did like a toolkit that contains like templates for these documents that I'm talking about. So I would work with Adebola and ensure that you guys have like how you can access it. It will be free for everybody. So, but like I just feel like, okay, it will help you in the course of your planning. So I have like a toolkit that has like all these documents I'm talking about in templates, so you guys can make use of it. People are not telling me thank you. That means that people know more. You will know the value of what I want to give you. It's fine. It's okay. Adebola will let me know if I should send it or not, depending on how people react on this call. So we have program plan as one of our documents. We have work breakdown structure. You can hear things like that. Work breakdown structure helps you like already break down your different tasks before you move it into your Gantt chart. We also have the resource and budget plan, also planning your budgets, your communications plan, M&E plan. These are most times they are separate documents. So different document. You also have the Gantt chart. We also have the stakeholders engagement plan, the risk management plan. These are different documents that are always moving in the program management space. And if you're also working on your project, you also have to not necessarily use it as a big template that we have, but you can just have like a structure for it and make sure that you have this document or in however format you want it, right? But it's just good to have it like in the standardized format. But I'll share the toolkit so you can see like what they look like and you can adapt it to your own project. Now we're done with planning and then it's time to party, it's time to execute. So we've got our party plan down to the last detail. We've planned our playlist, we've planned our snacks, our guest list. Now it's time to throw the party. So just like in programs, right, execution is where we get to bring our plans to life. Everything that you've written on paper, everything that you've written in your work plan is now time to do it as you said you will do it. And that's why we used to have issues. Because people will write beautiful things inside paper. When it's not time to implement, you'll be hearing Go and submit letter. There was traffic. Go and submit letter. Rain fell today. These are like issues that happens like in the process of trying to implement every single task, every single activity that you said you're going to implement. So things could go wrong, right? And again, I just want you to prep your mind that some things might go wrong. And me, I've come to live with this that I'm never always shocked if anything goes wrong. I'm like, oh, whatever will go wrong is gonna go wrong. But at the end of the day, we'll fix it. Like it's not that hard. Like we'll fix it, and at the end of the day, we'll still achieve our project outcome and also our goal, right? So, but things happen really in programs, just like in a wedding party. They'll tell you that anything that will go wrong. Sometimes it's the food that we finish, and then there's still more guests to serve. It happens. But then, did we do the wedding? We did the wedding. Did we achieve our goal? We achieved our goal. It's just that certain things probably happen in the course of implementing the project. So in terms of execution, right, like I said, it is you just putting into action everything that you said you would do. But some of the things I just want to call out that happens as execution phases, task and activity coordination. And this is very important as a program manager. You need to be able to ensure that everybody, so you see that work plan that I said, Queenette is supposed to be the one to, handle our stakeholders and submit the letter to the churches. As a program manager, Queenette must not come back and tell me she has not done what she's supposed to do, because I am supposed to have designed my timeline in such a way that I've thought about it that, okay, in case if Queenette comes back to say rain fell in her area, so there was flood, she could not go, my program is still fine. So I've thought about it to say, okay, if on a normal day, it will probably take 3 days for this letter to be dropped, I will give her allowance of like 2 extra days, but maybe I will not tell her that she has allowance of 2 extra days. That's something I used to do. I will not tell you that we still have grace of 2 extra days, because humans can just be very, very funny. So, but really, whatever works for you. But basically, the idea is coordinate the activity, coordinate the tasks, ensure things are going as it's meant to go. Whatever approach that you want to apply, some people do constant reminders, some people set up like AI agents to ensure that you get that reminder. I think a very good app that actually works for things like this is this task on Outlook. So you can set it to remind the person that their tax is due. Some people do some color coding thing, so you can see when something is already delaying, when something is already overdue, right? And then you notify the person responsible for that particular thing. So there's a way you can actually make your planning process really, really good, particularly even your task and activity coordination. So people are getting mails when their tax is overdue, when their tax is 2 days late, they are getting reminders. So it's also part of activity coordination. And I think another thing again around activity coordination is gearing up your team members. See, I've come to realize that if you're working with a team, if your team members are not happy, it will affect your project. So I just had to chip that in because in as much as yes, I don't know, people on this call might probably be very worker. You guys might probably like work, but again, don't be too serious at times. Like just so at times people really could just be going through a whole lot. So you can just have to calm down, hear from them, know what they are going through, and then just know how you just navigate the process such that at the end of the day still you are still doing well in the course of your project. Is also part of activity coordination. Empathy is important. Communication is very important. So another thing again that happens at execution phase, now I am rushing because I feel like I have just 30 minutes more or maybe 20 minutes more. What happens at execution phase is stakeholders and team communication. So you have to communicate with your stakeholders. They need to know what's going on. And like I said earlier on the communication plan, if you've not planned it, it will be hard for you to do it at this execution phase because you'll be expected to do it. That's when at times you'll be hearing ministry will say, you did not send us report though. We don't know your organization or we don't know who you are because usually you've not been communicating with them. So it's good to have that, stakeholders and team communication, or rather it happens at execution phase. Quality control also happens at execution phase. You get to check this activity that we implemented, did we do it well? This resource planning that we did. So let's say, take for instance, we planned that we're going to have a training workshop. For instance, you can do a quality control on this on what we just did right now, like on this our program. We're having a workshop right now, right? And then one of the hiccups we had earlier, we had some technical difficulties at some point, right? So quality control is Adebola trying to fix the issue to ensure that, like, okay, things are still running as we intended it to run. And then I'm very sure Adebola will go back again and ensure that by next week it doesn't happen, like that. It is part of quality control. So quality control would always happen. Quality control in terms of how you're implementing your project, quality control in terms of even the resource that you are using. For instance, if someone like Angel now that wants to improve the level of information of young girls, if she wants to maybe use a flyer now and then she has printed flyer from a particular printer and she realized that the printing work is not good. Quality control is she also say, you know what, she's not going to print with that printer. Or she realizes that the text is too tiny, the children cannot read what is there. She will fix it again next time. Or probably from the interaction with the girls, she realized that maybe most of them are even Yoruba, but she just did not know and they don't understand English, even though they look like they understand English. Policy control is she changing her strategy to say, okay, I think we need a translator that will translate this English into Yoruba for our target audience to be able to understand. Also, resource allocation and management also happens at execution phase. So that's where you'll be saying, okay, we want to do this program. We need 10,000 naira, approve. We need 2 volunteers to go there, approve. So all those moving parties happens at execution phase. Risk and issue management also happens at execution phase. Those things that you foresaw that might possibly go wrong might start happening, and then it's your duty to manage them in that instance. It's your responsibility to manage those risks, those issues. And there are some issues really that you did not see coming at all. That's why they call them unforeseen circumstances. Things like some people might not know that, nobody planned that there will be kidnapping cases in Oyo State, right? This year, nobody knew that. Nobody knew that, public schools will have to go on strike for some days in Oyo State. Nobody knew that it could have affected some people's program management. Some people's program plan, because they've already planned that they'll be in public schools at so day. So now the issue has happened. What would you do? You need to be able to manage the situation to ensure that you still achieve your overall goal. Documentation and reporting also happens as execution phase. Depending on the structure you want to work with, it's good to have that personal structure of, for every activity, there is a report. For every month, there is a monthly report. For every quarter, there's a quarterly report. The people that I learned under, that's how they used to do it. Every activity, reports must come in within 48 hours. Monthly reports must also come in before the end of the month. Quarterly reports must be submitted to funders, even if they did not ask. It's just part of, like, okay, trying to strengthen your relationship with your funders, right? Also, bi-monthly reports, that's the 6 month report. 6 month report also must be developed, and annual report also must be developed, right? So just know that as your execution phase, you will need to document, you need to write reports. In some cases, some stakeholders might request for a report from you, and you need to be ready to give them those documentation and also the report. So some of the key documents that happens that you use here, your status report, your progress report, your work completion checklist, particularly for different activities, you can have a checklist that is helping you to track that, okay, we've done this, we've done this, we've done that, we've done that. Some communication records or log. For me, I like to have like a stakeholders list where I have like the name and the phone numbers of everybody that I've interacted with on a project, because it just helps the next person that'll probably come on board on that project, or it could also help your future project. So it's just good to have like that communication records. You have their phone numbers, you have their email address. Risk and issue log also to document these are the risks that happened on this project. These are the issues that happened on this project. This was how we addressed it. Again, the toolkit I will send would have like this thing so you can check them out. Also, the budget tracking document, also interim reports, change request forms, procurement and inventory log, right? These are document for this procurement. Now, if you have like a procurement unit in your organization, you have to like submit procurement requests. Again, these are just standardized process. And honestly, if you might be working with some funders and they don't need all these things, but when you now start working with the big funders that require like detailed communications, like you realize that, oh, we need to put in this structure within our organization or within your activities as a person. So, thank you everybody. Thank you everybody. Okay, I like that we were getting it. So, our party has happened, right? You know, we're in someone's wedding party. We've done our music, we've had our snacks, but how do we know if our party was a hit? Did it make sense? Did it eat or did it burn? We need to be able to know. Maybe this party actually did burn. So, but if you had to measure one thing to know if your party was a success, what would it be? Would it be how many people stayed late? For some people, that's the indicator that that party, party you do. You're hearing, if you see the number of people that did not want to go, oh, that party was amazing. That's how some people say that their party was good. Some people, it's probably based on the amount of food that was left. They say, oh, it was not sweet. If you look at the number of food that was left, people did not really like the food. So when they are clearing the plates, it's easy to know. Or maybe the number of compliments that you got, right? Everybody has like different indicators that they use to gauge if their party was a success. And it's the same thing also in program management, right? You need to be able to define did my project eat or did my project burn? Just think about it like that, right? So, and that's where your M&E comes in. You're trying to check, why am I still saying, did we eat? Did we burn? Oh God, I need to use the right terminologies. So yeah, we're trying to see, did we achieve our goal? Did we achieve our objectives? Right? Did we get our outcomes? Did we get our outputs? Did our activity run as it was supposed to run? These are the things that you ask yourself at your M&E phase. I'm not going to go too deep into this, but let me just say briefly that data collection happens at M&E phase so that you're able to define your output and your outcome. I believe in the session that has to do with M&E, they will explain to you what outputs means, what outcomes means, what impact means. But just know that impact assessments would also happen at this phase. Some programs don't do impact assessments, and the reason is obvious because it's cost intensive, it's costly. It's costly, and also it's hard to measure your impact in the space of 1 year. Like it's very hard to measure impact in the space of 1 year. And then also lessons learned also happens at M&E phase, which is good. It's good to like always document lessons. What is working well? What's not working well? What can we do better? These are things that will help you in terms of your scaling. Also, sustainability and scalability assessment also happens at M&E, and your final report and presentation in some cases also happens at M&E. So some documents that you have to use here are the things I have here. But like I said, I'm rushing so that I can take questions. Then it's time to close our project. We are done. Some people, some organizations, let me say some people, some organizations, their project phase ends at M&E. But then there's closing. There's that closing, like one of which I like, right? And this is why I like it. You see this thing. Celebrate success and recognize contribution. Me, I like it too. Me, I like to let people know that you did well, you did good. It's important, but not everybody does it, right? So, but at the closing phase, that is where you've completed all your program activities. This is where you now sit together, you check through your M&E report, you get to see, okay, this worked, this didn't work, okay, we achieved this, we didn't achieve this. You reflect as a team. Closing is most times always very internal. You reflect as a team to say, okay, what could we have done better? Admin, what didn't you do well? The people that handled printing, like, you think about every part of your project, not only the programs team, everybody that participated in the project. You sit down together and you ask yourself questions to see if, you actually close well. Then also documentation and knowledge sharing also happened at the closing stage, right? This is where, like, you share. In some cases, it could be that you're presenting abstract. In some cases, it could be that you're being called, you're planning maybe an event in a conference, so you can talk about, what you learned on your project. It's part of knowledge sharing. For some people, it could be that when they'll now do like long post on LinkedIn to say, I did a project. It's part of knowledge sharing, right? Some people, they will say they want to go and talk on radio, or they want to feature on TV, or they want it on newspaper. It's part of knowledge sharing, because it's good not to hoard your knowledge. You've learned something in the course of your project's implementation. Don't keep it to yourself, right? It's good to like share the knowledge and let other people learn from it. Also, sustainability and transition happens at the closing phase. Again, depending on the project. There's some people that they need to transition the project maybe to the school. Maybe in the case of Angel now, she can now choose to say, for the sustainability of this project, she wants to transition this project to the teens churches, to the teens church pastors, to say, okay, every year, this church has committed that they will have at least 2 sessions on menstrual health for the young girls and also for the boys, right? It is part of transition planning, and probably all the things she needs to do is she'll give them a training curriculum, she'll give them her slides so that they will know how they will communicate. It is part of transition planning, as the case may be. Some people, they know that their project is not sustainable, but it's good to ensure that your project is sustainable and can stand the test of time and can continue to achieve its intended goal even when you're not there. That's how I like to think about sustainability, right? I like to think about sustainability that the goal that I intended to achieve, will it still be achieved even if I'm not there? Is it that by the time Angel is now done with her project, maybe the next generation of young girls that will probably be at that age would not have access to the knowledge? No, it does not make sense. It's good to ensure that that impact that you had is sustained, and it's not just only sustained for a short period of time, like for a very long period of time, that you go back again to those churches and realize that, people are still doing these things after 10 years. But maybe they might not now remember that it was Angel that brought up that project then, because they would have changed teen church pastors and teachers, as the case may be. Also, preparing and distributing final report also happens. It could be internal reports, it could be external report, but just ensure that there's that distribution of final reports that happens. And my favorite part, celebrate success and recognize contributions. Like, if you're going to be working with volunteers, like in the course of your own project implementation, it's good to like celebrate success. It's good to recognize people's contribution and say, thank you at so and so for doing this. Like, if you're working with a team, it's good, like, call them out, let them know that like they are part of this. It just helps. It helps your team. And that's why I said in the execution phase that when you're doing your task coordination, try to be humane as possible. Try to have empathy. It is important. Don't let us be all hard, and hard. It's good to have fun while doing this project implementation. Don't be too hard on yourself, and don't be too hard on your team members. So some documents, impact reports, closure reports, knowledge sharing documents. So I'm about to wrap up. I'm actually wrapping up already. So, but they always say that it's good to put conclusion. It's good to put conclusion. So this is my own conclusion here, that every great program starts with an idea, but through planning, through action, through evaluation, that idea becomes something that changes life. So let's go out there and bring our visions to life. And I do have a personal task for you. I would love you to be sure. This is my own way of evaluating that this session that I just did really had an impact in your life. So I would definitely need you to write whatever platform works for you. It could be LinkedIn, it could be Instagram, it could be a note, it could be a feedback form. I don't know, but I need to know that this session that I just had with you guys, I did not waste my time. And like, I need to know if I need to do better in certain things. So I would appreciate feedbacks from the team. Not from the team. I appreciate feedbacks from my participants. So write about this session, write about this class that you had. Like I said about celebrating and recognizing effort, celebrate the conveners of this MhP. celebrate the coordinators, like just let people know that you're doing something, you're part of a program, and write about it, write about the different sessions that you've had. And yeah, write about my session. Let me be sure that really you did understood everything that we have been saying. So with this viewpoint of mine, no, I think I am done. If you do have any questions, please let me know. And if you want to connect with me, I think it's supposed to be Instagram. This is it. So I think we can take questions at this point. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much, Ma, for that session. Like, yes, my note is full actually. Thank you so much. And I actually do have a question myself. Probably if other people have questions, they'll put it on the chat box. But can I go ahead with mine?
Yeah, sure. I think you can. Maybe you can set the tone.
Oh, all right. So when you were talking about the initiation phase, you
Okay.
mentioned theory of change.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, so I would like more explanation on that. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you for that question. Even though I feel like he's the person that is going to come and do money that should do that. But anyways, let's have that conversation. So Um, the theory of change is I see it's more or less like a very vital planning tool, right? That helps me plan strategically. Strategically in the sense that can I can see where my program is starting from and I can see where it's heading. So there is on your theory of change, you see like you have to say, oh, I feel like I hope I can draw. Okay, on your theory of change, you get to say, okay, this is the problem, this is the input, these are the activities, these are the outputs, these are the outcome, these are the impact. So it's more or less like you're showing somebody a flow as to how that, so because you're starting your theory of change with this is the problem that I'm trying to address. Now, these are the things I'm going to impute to ensure that my problem is being solved. These are the activities I will conduct. So, okay, let me use an example. Okay, let's use Angel's examples too about the problem of information gap, right? So for the activities that she will conduct. So I'll say, okay, this is my problem. Then on top of the problem, I'm going to talk about the activities, which are the things that I'm going to do to solve that particular problem. Then I'm going to show my output. My output could be increased knowledge. It could be increased knowledge. It could be number of people that attended the training session. It could be number of training held, depending as the case may be. And then you now have your outcome. Your outcome could then now be maybe change in behavior, change in attitude, and then it then leads to the top, which is the impact, which is the initial goal they are going to that you're intending to achieve. I mean, trust me, if there's going to be an M&E class, they will talk about it. But I wish I can show you a chart, but just know that it's a strategic planning and evaluation tool that helps you understand how and why, what you're doing is going to achieve its intended impact. So it just shows you a map as to how that flow would happen from the problem to the activities to the output to the outcome and then to the impact. So anybody that sees a theory of change will understand, oh, this is what these people are doing. You don't need to talk too much. It clearly shows this is what I'm doing and these are the things I'm going to achieve by doing the things I'm doing. I hope it's clear, but you can also just
Yes,
check online
yes.
for like a diagram so you understand the diagram I was trying to paint with my words. Yeah.
Yes, yes. Thank you very much. So there are three questions here on the chat box. So
Ah,
um the
only
first
me.
one, I believe sustainability is key in any project being implemented. Since this project we are going to be working on and not tied to any particular organization, how can we ensure sustainability beyond the end of this program? That's the first question.
Okay, let me take the first question before the next one. Yeah, very, very good question. I like the fact that you're already thinking about sustainability for your own projects, right? So when I was talking about, I think I mentioned something about sustainability and I used Angels projects as an example, right? Where I said that sustainability for Angels projects could be that the church would continue that information thing. So let's say that campaign where Angel is going to the different churches to talk to the students, to talk to the children or the teenagers, let's use the teenagers, talk to the teenagers about menstrual health. What if Angel then, as a sustainability strategy, decides to train the teachers, the pastors, or the leaders in that particular church, in the teens church, on how to communicate and talk about menstrual health? Or she can choose to say, okay, there might be HODs, of which teenagers are like the HODs in that church. It's not the adults that will be the HODs. They're like teenage leaders within the teenage church structure. Let me train the teenage leaders. So the teenage leaders would see themselves as champions of menstrual health, such that they would then ensure that they have maybe yearly sessions or biannual sessions on menstrual health and talk about menstrual health, right? That's a sustainability approach already for that particular project. So sustainability doesn't have to necessarily be like organization per se, but the logic is just, how do I ensure that even when I leave this project, there's a way that this thing still, the impact of this thing still continues. For some people, their sustainability approach is a flyer, sorry, is a poster. A poster in the school. You see some people that they will just put a banner in that particular place. So that by the time they are out of that place, anybody that comes there will see that banner, will read the information, would maybe get something, right? It is a sustainability approach that they chose, in sense of some people putting a banner in front, like, those Milo. Sorry, I used to feel like anyway, I saw those Milo banner in those secondary schools that they visit. I'm like, this is sustainability, because you came there to increase information about Milo, but you did not want them to stop thinking about Milo. So you did a Milo billboard and put the name of the school there to ensure that they will continue to remember Milo. So you can think about it also like in that way. But again, it is project dependent, right? And I understand your concern. For some projects, it could be very tight, it could be hard, and people can frustrate efforts at times. So, and again, it's okay if it is not, it doesn't feel like it's sustainable. Sustainability again can come in the context of like maybe your project's approach. You share it, like you probably share it on social media platforms, or you share it, you write an article about it, right? Because somebody somewhere else can look at what you've done and then choose to take it up and implement it in another state or in another country. But it's just that you might not now know that that person did it, right? So, but yeah, I think like those are ways that you could, and it's also good to also learn to leverage on community structures, right? Like, so if you go into a community, if you're working with a group of people, just take a look around that community and think like, okay, how can I work with these people to ensure that even when I leave this place, something is trickling down, but then not necessarily from me, but then from the community. That's why some people will go to secondary schools and they will say they want to set up school clubs, they want to set up a menstrual health club in the secondary school, so that by the time you are not there, the students are still having that conversation, the teachers are supporting that conversation. So those are ways that you can actually think about it. But by the time like you're fleshing out your project, we can talk about like, okay, what are like sustainability activities that you can implement to ensure that it is sustainable beyond your project, beyond the end of the project. Yeah. I don't know if I answered your question, Pelumi.
All right. Thank you very much, ma'am.
You're
So,
welcome.
the next question, Precious asked if our stakeholders can be both parents and young girls.
Oh yes, because they are important. Like I said, your stakeholder are people that they can make or mar your project. Like they are, yeah, there are people that have interest in your project. So it could be individuals, it could be group, it could be organization. But the thing is, they have interest in your project. They have interest in the success, in the failure. They are interested, and they would most likely be impacted if your project goes south. So depending on the activity, sorry, depending on the project you're implementing, if you take a look at it and you're like, obviously, if you're implementing a project for young girls are part of your stakeholders. They are like, in as much as yes, they are your, what's the word? They might be your target audience, but they are still your stakeholders also, right? Also, parents also are also stakeholders. So you can have both parent and girls as your stakeholder, depending on your project. right? And you can have teachers as a stakeholder. Again, these things are projects dependent and it's dependent on what you're trying to achieve. I mean, I've had the projects that Okada riders were my key stakeholders, mechanics were the key stakeholders. Because I was working with what's that word that they used to call those people? People that there's a word for them, or people that are not white collar job, the blue collar job. There's not a word, but yeah, anybody really can be this your stakeholder, but it has to be in line with the fact that they have a vested interest or they can make or mark your project. Yeah. Please let me know people that answer their question. Let me know the answer your question. If you have follow-up question, you can ask.
All right. So
Oh,
the
for the
last
feedback.
person, yes, for
Oh,
the feedback.
tag me. Oh, my name is Oluwatomi Olunuga.
All
That's
right.
my name. These are my handles. You can tag me there. Thank you so much. And I would also be sending a link to Adebola to help me post on the group so that I can get feedbacks also like directly, just in case. Thank you so
All right.
much, guys. This was good.
Thank
Thank
you.
you for having me.
Thank you very much, Ma, for coming and you know. So Miss Halimat is raising up her hand. No.
Miss Tommy, thank you so
Ma'am,
much for honoring our invitation, ma. I've really
thank you,
learned a
ma'am.
lot. My notes are full, and I hope I'll be able to make use of some of the huge advice you have given us. For me personally, I know that aspect of being patient with your team is something I'm working on, and I hope I'll be able to be more patient and then holding
As
people
well.
responsible and accountable for their
Yes.
actions. It can be frustrating, and I envisage that also happening even with the menstrual health advocate program
Yeah.
because they are in groups, they've never met, some of them have never
Oh,
worked together before.
that's nice.
And executing a project together, some people may be giving the high energy, putting all the
Yeah.
effort, and some people may be quick to post and take recognition, and
Mm-hmm.
it can be very frustrating. So I'm just
Mm-hmm.
giving them a heads up of what is possible and
Yeah.
probably
Yeah.
going to happen in the teams. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
thank you so much for the session. I mean, it was so detailed. For everybody on the call, I mean, I'm going to put you on the spotlight. Miss Tommy was my first program manager when I was an intern.
Hey.
And as she mentored me reach this stage, she's my oga, like the oga of the ogas. I mean,
Thank God.
I'm still
Oh.
learning from her by the way. So thank you so much for honoring our invitation and for coming.